Okay, in today's class, I am going to explain functions in JavaScript. Okay, so as I told you that these are very free classes. I am conducting these classes thrice of a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sharply at 8 p.m. in June. So if anybody is interested, these are very free classes. You can attend my classes. Okay, it doesn't mean. So why I'm conducting these classes? I want to reach to rural areas wherever the network centers, the students, they are totally aware of network centers and they are not able to attend the expensive classes. So that's why I want to attend. I want to reach the rural areas. So my classes will be helpful to you. So okay, you can take my number 9110398650 and you can contact me on okay, so that I can share the link to you. Zoom link. Okay, now come to the point. In today's class in JavaScript, let us try to understand what are functions. Okay, so functions nothing but it is a block of code. Okay, a block of code means any line, 5 lines, 10 lines, even the 2 lines of code is called a block. Even the 2 lines of code is a block. It may be up to any number of lines. So the total line of code is called a block of code, and that will be invoked whenever you call that function. Okay, the total code will be kept with a name. Block of code will be kept with a name, and name, whenever you call that function with that name, and that function will be that code will be executed. So that is called functions are what? Reusable block of code designed to perform particular task. So generally we know that print function. So print function, we will not write any code. So whenever I call print function, the print task will be executed. So behind of that, whatever the code written, you don't know how many lines of code. It may be 2 lines of code, 10 lines of 100 lines of code. So in programming, so many functions will be available in the form of libraries. Okay. So functions are executed when they are called. So that line of code, the block of code, it is kept with a name. And whenever you call that function name, and that line of code will be executed. So you will get the functions in all programs. It may be C, C++, Java, Python, JavaScript, in any language. So all the programming languages, they will support the functions. So now function, let us write a function to compute the product of two numbers. If you want to calculate the product of two numbers, multiplication of two numbers, so how to write the code in JavaScript? So in JavaScript, every function must be started with a keyword function. Okay. And then function should be kept with a name. Every function must be started with function keyword and then after function name, any name, XYZ, you can keep any name. And then after, if you want to multiply two numbers, so take the two variables. Take the two variables. And these are like they will be called as parameters. Parameters are nothing but variables. Means whatever the values, whatever the variables you want to pass to that function inside of these parentheses, they are called parameters. Means variables. Variables will hold some values. So then return keyword must be there, and then the two variables, the product sign asterisk. Okay. And that statement to be terminated with the semicolon. This is the code written, but this must be kept in flower brackets. Okay, always. Now come to the point. So this is the code written here. So we will delete all the code and we will practice the code again. Okay, here, as I told you that this is the initial code, it indicates that this is the document of HTML. It indicates HTML version 5, and then HTML code must be started with HTML start tag, and it must be end with end tag. Okay. and this is the body element. Body element has one start tag, end tag. End tag must be, there is a difference between start tag and end tag is called, end tag will be forward slash should be written inside of the body start, body tag. And inside of this is the header element and the content written here, whatever display here. Okay. And then the P element started with start tag, end tag. Inside of this content written that will be displayed here. Okay. And P element one attribute assigned kept inside of P element start tag, and one attribute ID it is assigned with demo value. Now inside of the script, I told you that script start tag, script end tag, JavaScript code will be written, function to compute the product of this is the statement kept with two forward slashes. So the statement is a comment, it will not be executed by the browser. And then function, one function started with function name, anything you can keep, huh? Anything. Your name, XYZ, my name, there is no any problem. Otherwise, simply you call was any, and then two variables kept and return keyword and multiplication of these two variables. Now, one variable we need to create with the any result. Okay, any variable name. Let keyword. Let keyword. I told you that to create the variables can be created in JavaScript with the let keyword. Otherwise, Java that is what constant keyword. So here I have used let keyword to create the variable, and that variable name anything here result is kept. Okay, and then you call that my function. You call that my function. Okay. Your function name is my function. So I have changed this as Vasu. So you change this as, if you run this code, you will not get. So whenever you change this as Vasu, you will get the result. Okay. You are getting pro. So function name can be any. So this function name that is to be, if you want to get display. So we need to use call that get element by ID method, and this method is the mostly used in JavaScript method to find out the HTML element. Within this, we need to pass this attribute value that is assigned to this ID attribute. Here demo, it doesn't mean anything you can keep. Okay. It is either single quotation mark, otherwise double quotation marks, doesn't matter. If you have called, if you have kept in single quotation mark, here you have kept double quotation mark, there is no any problem. If you change this value as XYZ, okay, so you need to same value you need to keep here, okay, XYZ, there is no any problem. Okay, if you keep somewhat space here, it will not be able to iron. So what do you mean of this? You have kept somewhat space here. Okay. So don't try to keep any space here. So space. So now you will get the result. So if you give space here, so you will not get any result. Okay. So the total code now you delete this total code and you write the code again. Here, first of all, write doc type. That is, it is a HTML document. Okay. Now come to the, now write HTML. You start with HTML start tag. Okay. And you come down, you close with HTML, the web page to be closed with HTML end tag. And you start with HTML body tag, body element. Now come down, you close with the HTML body tag. So body, every end tag must be represent with forward slash. And now you need to write one header here. So that is what header, any type of, how many types of header you want to keep. So this you want to represent here. So nothing is there. So you, whatever the content you write here, today's topic is JavaScript functions. Okay, functions. So now this header, so now header element started and closed. Now inside of this, if you want to keep any paragraph, now here functions are block of code. Functions are functions means function mean block of code, block of code. Okay, function means a block of code, block of code. Now close. Now, if block of code will be executed, a block of code will be executed. Huh? Why, if I will not write anything, so the body section, it turns to red. Why? This is the start tag, but end tag, body end tag gets red. Means once inside of the body section, any element is started with start tag. Here it is not closed with end tag. So that's why body turns red. Hello, water. So we are defining the function. So once function means block of code. So I have written this code here. Now let us come to the next. That is what your JavaScript code. Always the JavaScript code that is to be written inside of the script. Script start tag, okay, and script end tag. Script end tag. So inside of always JavaScript is a scripting language. It is to be written inside of the scripts. So first of all, we need to create a function. Function always is to be created with the function keyword. Then function, I told you that function or method both must be having these parentheses, means brackets. Then after function content that is to be written inside of this clever braces. Okay. Now here under the function, what is our function means a block of code, and I told you that what, let us state one statement we write here, that is what function for what, computation means multiplication, multiply uh, two numbers, okay, code. One function we will write, we will create a code, and that whenever I call that function with the function name is what? Simply you write multiply function, multiply. So what it does, the function multiplies. Okay, whenever we call this function name, and it will multiply two variables, we will take x comma y, two variables. Variables means two parameters. These are variables which will hold the value. So now inside of this, what I need to write here, return keyword. Return keyword, this function returns what? X into y. X multiplied by y. Understood that? Now close this statement, you close this statement, okay? Now function, what is the one function created? Function name is multiply. So this multiply function, what it does, it will calculate, it will multiply these two variables. So whatever the values we pass to these variables, they will be multiplied and result will be displayed. So next what, if I write inside of this, that one variable we create, that variable is what? Let result. Okay, result is a variable. where result is equal to what? Result here, this result. So here we will call that function, which we will call what function? Multiply. This multiply function will be called. Okay. So if I call this result variable, so this variable will call the multiply function. Understood? Next word, I want to get the result here. So if you simply run, you will get only this content. It's the content kept inside of this header section, header element and paragraph element. Okay. But I want to get the result. Result is what? This function, it must return the multiplication of these two variables. So now here, so I want to use for one method that is document dot. Okay, get element by ID method, get element by ID method. So method always it must have the brackets like function. Okay, here I need to pass that what one value I need to pass. The value that is what demo, otherwise anything. Okay, one value that is what wherever you have this demo here I need to pass. Demo is what? ID. ID is equal to demo. So you define this as demo. Otherwise, you keep your name. Whatever the value you pass to this ID attribute, that is to be mentioned in this get element by ID method. This get element by ID method, it is the JavaScript mostly used HTML method, which will be used to find out the HTML element. Then after what? Inner HTML. This is the attribute mostly used to display the content. What content of the HTML element? So here I need to pass this result. Result is the variable. I want to call that variable semicolon close. Now this, whenever you pass this variable to this inner HTML attribute, what it does, it will find out the HTML element, and this method finds the HTML element, and this attribute inner.html, it will display the content. Okay. So content is what? Result variable, and it is having assigned with multiply function. Now multiply function will be called. So the function, what it does, it will return the values x, y. Okay. It will return the values. So here we need to pass the values. Multiply for this xy parameters variables. We will pass the values like 4, comma 8. So now 4 into 8 what? 32. Okay. That will be, we need, that is to be displayed here. So now what happened here? Whenever I run this code, I am getting the result 32. So 32 is what? 4 into 8, 32. Okay. This function returns 4, x is equal to 4, y is equal to 8. 4 into 8, 32. But I want to keep somewhat, that is what here, before this, if I want to keep somewhat a result, I want to keep somewhat text like what, keep somewhat, that is what, product result. Product result, okay, plus product result. Okay, whenever you click on here, see this is product result where, so product means product result, keep somewhat separator here. Okay, now product result 32. What product result for XY? Product result of X comma Y variables. Okay. So now you will get product result of XY variables 32. Okay. If you don't want to keep semicolon, you can keep is equal to here. Okay. Now this is equal to 32. Okay. If we change these values to any, okay, whatever these are called the function arguments. Okay. 12. So now 12, 10 into 12 is equal to 120. Your result will be 120. So what happened here? We have created a function in JavaScript. Always the JavaScript function um, to be written with the function keyword. This is the function keyword, and then function name, any name. So suitable name. This is this function is being used for multiplication of two variables. So then in bracket we need to pass the parameters, means variables. Variables will hold the values, and then inside of the function to be closed like this. Okay, return, this function returns what? X into Y, multiplication result. So create a variable with let keyword and assign the function to this variable and pass the XY values. XY variables, whatever the values you want to pass. Now use that get element by ID method. This is the mostly used HTML method, JavaScript HTML method to find out the HTML content element. And pause for that method always it must have the brackets. Method or function must be suffixed with the brackets. Here is the method of this is the document. Dot means document. Your web page is called document. The total code is called web page document. So document, this method is part of this document. So dot, okay, next inner HTML attribute will be used to find out the HTML content. Okay. So this content will be displayed on the screen. So this is called, in today's class, I have explained how to create the functions in the JavaScript. Function is nothing but it is somewhat code written, and the code, that function can be called anytime. Here the code function created, function created, and inside of this, how many lines of code I have written? So only one line of code I have written. So now it is called what? A block of code. Even the one line of code, so even the 10 line of code, 15 line, 100 line of code, that will be called whenever we call that function. Here, I am calling this function by this variable. Because this function is assigned to a variable, just I need to call this variable, not to call this function. Okay. So whenever I call this variable here inside of this method attribute inner HTML, I have called that variable. So now that variable is assigned with function. So whenever you call that variable, the function will be invoked, means calls, and result will be declared. So we can simply understand that function is what? Function is a block of code will be executed whenever of that block of code will be kept with a name. So that function, whenever we call the name of function, so the total block of code will be executed. Okay, this is the class today. So thank you, Jai Hind. So the class to be closed.